to exploit these things. We'll switch to another one now. We're going to talk about this thing called loss aversion, and I'll explain what that is in a second. But first, we'll talk about sunk cost. Loss aversion, the bias or the heuristic that leads us to overestimate losses and underestimate gains, is responsible, as we'll see, for the sunk cost fallacy. So we'll talk about sunk cost, and then we'll examine the bias. So here's a case. I got a case on the board, but let's say, for example, you are trying to break up with your girlfriend, and she says to you, look, we've been together for 8 months. Are you going to throw all those 8 months away? Yeah, are you going to throw it away now? Right? Okay. Let's take another one. We've been fighting this war for, how long have we been fighting in Afghanistan? An awfully long time, right?
16.
So it's been 16 years. We've been fighting for 16 years in Afghanistan, right? And let's say someone is opposed to the war in Afghanistan. It's the longest war the United States has fought, right? 16 years. So someone says we should get out of Afghanistan. And then the response is, how can you say that we should leave Afghanistan? Think of all the good men who've died fighting in Afghanistan. Do you want to just throw that away and waste their sacrifice? Okay. That's a tough one. That's a hard challenge. But that's another example of the sunk cost fallacy. Whether it's right or wrong to leave Afghanistan, the fact that lots of people have already died and lots of treasure has already been spent is irrelevant to our judgment about the future. Okay, so let's look at this case. Should I renovate the kitchen of this old house? This was I was renovating a house. The first house I lived in, the first house I bought, it was a ruin. I fixed it up, but I really didn't want to do the kitchen. So I said, should I renovate the kitchen of this old house? You know, I don't think that fixing the kitchen will make any difference to the price of the house when we're ready to sell. And look, I hate cooking, but I've invested so much time, money, and energy renovating the rest of the place that it would be a shame not to finish it. All right, I'm going to just do the kitchen. Is that a good reason to do the kitchen? We say no. Just because you've poured money into the rest of the house doesn't mean you should pour money into the kitchen or that you should continue pouring money into the house, right? At some point, you have to stop spending money and you have to stop expending effort and energy, right? You're always going to have to make the decision, should I keep doing what I'm doing? And the fact that you have been doing it is not an argument that you should continue. Okay, so we'll look at the structure of this as we go forward. So this is the formal structure then of the argument from sunk costs. And it looks like this. We begin with, should we continue this course of action? Should we continue this relationship? Should we continue fighting this war? Should we continue renovating the house, et cetera, et cetera? And our first premise is, look, we've already invested a great deal of resources in this course of action. That's true. So the first premise is true. The second premise is a conditional. It says, if I've already invested in a course of action, then I should continue to do so. One more time. If I've already spent a lot of money, then I should continue spending a lot of money. And then the conclusion is, I should continue this course of action. Now, when it's stated like this, what's the problem? What's the obvious problem? What's obviously false here on the board? Blank. Tristan. Yeah, Tristan. Go ahead.
You haven't done the thing that you said you're going to do.
Well, I have been doing it. I have been, Tristan, you've been in this relationship with her or him for a long time now, right? A little louder, Tristan.
Doesn't constitute any further movement on the issue.
Okay, help him out. More or less, he's more or less got it. Help him out a little bit. Joshua?
There's making an argument.
Okay, it is making an argument. It's just not making a good argument. Okay? And the weakness is clearly in here. If I've already invested in the course of action, then I should continue to do so. Right? That seems to be the flaw in the argument, right? Yeah? No? Yeah? No? Yeah? Okay. Good. Good. Everyone understand why? Is it clear? The guy at the back with the white shirt. Is it clear? No. Okay, good. Honest man. All right. So let's try and do it one more time. The fact that you've been with this woman for 8 months, does that mean that you should be with her next Wednesday?
No.
Why not?
She could be an awful person.
She could be an awful person, right? She could be poisoning your cat. Slowly poisoning the cat. And then you find out that she's poisoning the cat, right? And then she says, but we've been together for 8 months. Do you really want to throw this away? Cat's not dead yet. So what do you say? What do you say to her?
No, you're poisoning my cat.
No, okay, you're poisoning her cat, you have to leave. But what do you say about her argument? That, you know, you've been together for these 8 months, 8 awful months together. It's just been 8 horrible months. How can you throw away these 8 horrible months together? Okay, try to reason with it. Try to reason with the cat poisoner. So what are you saying to her?
It was a bad 8 months.
Okay, but she says, yeah, but did you want to throw that away? All right, so what are you going to say? You're going to say, the fact that we've been together for 8 months doesn't mean that we should be together for 9 months. Why should we be together for 9 months? Because we love each other and respect each other, et cetera, we support each other, et cetera, right? That would be a reason, right? Or why should we stay in Afghanistan? We should stay in Afghanistan because we got to hold Central Asia together. It's the only way we can do it. We've got to secure gas pipelines. We've got to make sure the Taliban doesn't take over the country. We've got to make sure there's not a safe haven for ISIS. There's lots of reasons to stay in Afghanistan, whether they're good or bad. Those would be genuine reasons. But the fact that X number of thousand of our fellow citizens have died in Afghanistan, that's not by itself a reason to stay.
It's circular, it's kind of circular.
Kind of circular, not exactly circular. This is an example of the sunk cost fallacy. It's not a circular argument. Sarah,
Yeah.
what's your name?
Kate.
Cade, that's right. You were over somewhere else. Yeah, Sarah?
In the argument, if you say the Afghanistan example, if you should like leave Afghanistan because we've been there for, you said like how many years?
16 years.
16 years. So we've been fighting with Afghanistan for 16 years. Does it need to, does the answer need, like if you're negating that, does the answer need to be about time, or could it be like could a response be we should the fact that we have been in Afghanistan for 16 years and earlier you used the example of like loss of life, and we've lost this many soldiers, and we are gonna like just get rid of like what they've done for our country, right? So does the argument have to be like in time, or could I say could my response be, but we don't want to lose any more lives there?
Perfect.
Okay.
Perfect.
Sorry.
Perfect. That's exactly right. So, did you hear what she said? So a response says, okay, that's actually a reason to stop.
But couldn't
Right? We've lost X number of thousand soldiers, and who wants to be, as they said in Vietnam, the last man to die for an error? Right? Who wants to be the last guy who dies for a mistake?
But couldn't you respond with the same question, that we've been fighting with them for 16 years, but we don't need to be fighting with them for 17?
Right,
Okay,
exactly.
so I wasn't sure if
Very good,
if
very
time
good.
needed to correlate with like.
No, it doesn't.
Okay.
Strictly speaking, no. In fact, one of the points we're trying to make is that the fact that we've been on some course of action for a while isn't license for you to continue that course of action. It's just a fact. We've been going out for 8 months. Just because we've been going out for 8 months, you say to him or to her, it doesn't mean we should go out for 8 months in one day. Right? There might be good reasons for us to continue going out, but the fact that we've been going out for a long time is not by itself a reason to continue.
But could you say, I'm going to use the word window again, we've been fighting this war for 16 years, but whenever you're negating that, you could say, but we don't want to lose any more lives.
Good. We certainly don't
So
want to
you can
lose any more
combine those
blood or
two.
treasure if we're in a mistake, right? If we're involved in a mistake. So the Afghan war is a complicated thing. There are reasons for the United States to continue engagement in the Afghan conflict. There are good reasons for us to be there. But if the reason you give is we should be there because we've been there a long time or because we want to honor the sacrifice of the fallen, those aren't good reasons.